Wilhoit, keep your hands on the wheel.
What is this about?
This is Jacob Wilhoit, a 41-year-old man from Phoenix who is about to be pulled out of a blue Honda van at gunpoint on the side of Interstate 40. He doesn't know it yet, but a yellow sticky note in a gas station 30 miles back has already ended everything.
The woman you grabbed off that rideshare in Phoenix. We have it all.
I have no idea what you're talking about. She came with me. She's a friend of mine.
22 hours, zip ties, duct tape, and the note she just handed a stranger inside that.
That's not. You have her.
6 words, written in shaky pen on a yellow sticky note, slid across a Chevron counter in a town of 445 people. By the time the customer who picked it up finished reading the last line, an Arizona Department of Public Safety trooper was already executing a U-turn through the median of Interstate 40. The investigation that put Jacob Wilhoit in handcuffs on the shoulder of that highway had been forming since the moment a woman opened a rideshare app in a Phoenix car dealership 22 hours earlier. And it would end with multiple loaded firearms sitting in plain view on the seats of his van, a kidnapping charge, and a story so delusional that the man he claimed could prove it had never met him. Before we go further, have you ever been in a situation where you had 30 seconds to ask a stranger for help and no other way out? Tell me in the comments. And if you're not subscribed to this channel yet, fix that now. We cover the cases that actually get people home. Jacob Daniel Wilhoit was born in Mesa, Arizona, in 1982, the second of 3 children. His father worked as a parts manager at a Chrysler dealership on East Main Street. His mother was a dental hygienist at a small practice off Stapley Drive. By every account from the people who knew him as a child, Jacob was the easy one, the middle son who didn't push back, didn't get in trouble, didn't draw attention. Teachers at Franklin Elementary remembered him as quiet and polite. He liked dirt bikes. He liked the desert. He spent most of his weekends with an uncle on a piece of state trust land east of Apache Junction, riding trails until the sun went down. He was, the people who knew him would later say, completely normal. He played Little League through age 12. He was not a star. He played second base because he was steady and he didn't drop the ball. His coach in the 1994 season wrote on his end-of-year evaluation that Jacob shows good fundamentals, listens well, and supports his teammates. That phrase, supports his teammates, would appear on 3 different evaluations across his school years. Teachers wrote it. Coaches wrote it. A scoutmaster wrote it on a Boy Scout rank advancement form when Jacob was 15. He earned his Eagle Scout in the spring of 1999. His project was rebuilding a section of trail at Usery Mountain Regional Park. The local newspaper ran a small feature about it with a photograph of him standing next to a stack of railroad ties, sunburned, 17 years old, half smiling at the camera the way a teenager smiles when an adult tells him to. He graduated from Mountain View High School in Mesa in 2000. He was not in the yearbook quotes. He was not in the senior superlatives. He was in the back row of the regular class photo, half smiling, in a button-down shirt his mother had picked out the morning of picture day. He took his prom date to dinner at a steakhouse on Power Road and brought her home by 11. Her parents liked him. Her father would tell investigators 23 years later that he was the kind of kid you wanted your daughter to date. That was Jacob Wilhoit at 18. He enrolled at Mesa Community College that fall. He took general education classes for 3 semesters and then dropped out. The reason he gave his parents was money. The reason he gave his friends was that he didn't know what he wanted to do. He took a job at a tile installation company in Tempe and worked his way up from helper to lead installer over the next 4 years. The owner of the company would later describe him as reliable, sober, on time, every single day. In 2006, he met a woman named Rebecca at a friend's housewarming party in Gilbert. They started dating in the spring. They moved in together the following October. By every account, the relationship was good, quiet, steady, unremarkable in the way that healthy relationships often are. They got married in May of 2009 at a small venue near Saguaro Lake, 48 guests, a potluck reception. Jacob's father gave a short toast about his son being the kind of man who showed up. Their daughter was born in March of 2011. Jacob took 2 weeks off work and spent every minute of those 2 weeks at the hospital and then at home. Rebecca's mother, who flew in from Tucson for the birth, described him as obsessed with being a good dad. He read parenting books. He installed every car seat himself. He wrote a list of things he would never do that his own father had done. Small, specific things, harmless things, like missing a Christmas pageant or forgetting a soccer game. The list was 3 pages long. Rebecca found it years later in a desk drawer. By 2013, Jacob had started his own tile and stonework business. He hired 2 employees. He built a website. He took out a small business loan and bought a used work truck and a trailer. The business grew slowly but steadily through 2014, 2015, and into 2016. By 2017, he was pulling in around $80,000 a year. Rebecca was working part-time as a billing coordinator at a pediatric office. They bought a house in Chandler in 2018, a 3-bedroom on a quiet street with a small pool and a mesquite tree in the front yard. This is the part of the story that matters. Because the man who would zip-tie a woman inside a Honda van in 2023 had spent 4 decades being, by every external measurement, a good husband, a good father, a good neighbor, a good business owner, and a good son. That trust was about to be tested in a way none of the people who knew him would have imagined possible. Something started to change in late 2019. Rebecca would later describe it as small things at first. Jacob became convinced that one of his employees was stealing from him. He fired the employee. There was no evidence the employee had stolen anything. Then he became convinced a neighbor was watching their house. He installed 3 new security cameras pointed at the street. Then he became convinced the cameras were being remotely accessed by someone he could not identify. He replaced the system. Then he replaced it again. By 2020, he was sleeping 4 hours a night. He started keeping notebooks. The notebooks were not journals. They were lists, license plates, times, names of people he had seen near his house, frequencies he had heard on a police scanner he bought at a swap meet in Apache Junction. Rebecca asked him to see a doctor. He refused. She asked him to talk to a counselor. He refused. He told her she didn't understand what was happening. In the fall of 2021, Rebecca took their daughter and moved out. The divorce was finalized in early 2022. Jacob did not contest it. He signed every paper. He told the mediator, on the record, that he wanted Rebecca to be safe. He said it 3 separate times. Then he started showing up at the house of the woman who would, 18 months later, slide a yellow sticky note across a gas station counter in Seligman, Arizona. The victim in this case, a woman the Yavapai County Sheriff's Office has identified only by her first name to protect her, had known Jacob Wilhoit for about 2 years before the kidnapping. They had met through a mutual professional contact in the construction industry. They were not in a romantic relationship. They had never been in a romantic relationship. By her account, given to investigators in the days after the rescue, Jacob had begun by being friendly, then attentive, then strange, and then frightening, over a span of roughly 9 months in 2022 and into 2023. Arizona's restraining order system, like every state's, is built on the assumption that paper creates distance. A judge signs an order. The order is served. The respondent is told, in writing, that they cannot come within a specified distance of the protected party, that they cannot contact them by any means, that they cannot send a third party on their behalf. A violation is, in itself, a criminal offense, a Class 1 misdemeanor in Arizona, punishable by up to 6 months in jail. The system works for most people. The data is clear on this. Most people who are served with a restraining order modify their behavior. They may not like the order, they may contest it in court, but they comply. A small percentage do not, a smaller percentage escalate, and a smaller percentage still, a fraction of a fraction, treat the order as a starting point. The victim filed for an order of protection against Jacob Wilhoit in May of 2023. The petition described a pattern. He had been showing up at her home unannounced, He had sent messages through a third party after she blocked him on her phone. He had, on one occasion, sat in his vehicle across the street from her house for what she estimated was over an hour. The judge signed the order the same day. It was served at his Chandler residence on a Tuesday evening by a Maricopa County constable. Jacob signed for it. He read it. He told the constable he understood. The constable noted in his report that the respondent was calm and cooperative. He did not modify his behavior. He did not contest the order in court. He did something the system is structurally unable to prevent. He waited. Between June and August of 2023, Jacob Wilhoit did 3 things investigators would later document. He purchased a wig from a costume supply store in Tempe. Long, dark, synthetic, not at all resembling his own short brown hair. He purchased a quantity of duct tape and zip ties from a Home Depot off the 202. And he downloaded the same rideshare app the victim used and studied how the driver-rider matching system worked. The rideshare system is built on trust. A rider opens an app. The app sends a request. A driver accepts. The app shows the rider the make, model, color, and license plate of the driver's vehicle, along with the driver's photograph and first name. The rider walks to the curb. The vehicle pulls up. The rider verifies the plate. The rider gets in. The vulnerability in that system is small, but it is real. If a rider is in a hurry, or distracted, or in a parking lot full of vehicles, they may verify only the make and color. They may not check the plate. They may not look at the driver's face long enough to compare it to the photograph in the app. They may, especially in a moment of impatience, simply get into the vehicle that pulls up to the spot where they expected their ride to be. That is what investigators believe happened on the morning of August 21st, 2023, in the parking lot of a car dealership in the Phoenix Valley. The victim was waiting for an Uber. A blue Honda van pulled up. The driver had long, dark hair. He gestured for her to get in. She got in. The door closed. The next 22 hours of this case have been reconstructed from 3 sources. The victim's statement to investigators, given over the course of 2 interviews on August 23rd and 24. Cell tower data pulled from Jacob Wilhoit's phone under warrant, and surveillance footage recovered from 7 separate businesses along the route the van traveled. The van pulled out of the dealership parking lot at approximately 9:47 a.m. on Monday, August 21st. Within the first 3 minutes of the drive, the victim realized the man behind the wheel was not an Uber driver. He was Jacob Wilhoit. The wig had shifted. She recognized his voice. She recognized his hands on the wheel. She tried to open the passenger door. The child lock was engaged. She tried to call out to a vehicle next to them at a red light at Baseline Road. He pulled a knife from the center console and held it where she could see it without raising it above the dashboard. He told her, in a voice she described as flat and calm, that if she made any noise, he would use it. He pulled into a parking area near a canal off Alma School Road and stopped the van. He climbed into the back. He bound her wrists with zip ties. He sealed her mouth with duct tape. He moved her to the rear bench seat. He covered her with a moving blanket. He climbed back into the driver's seat. Then he drove. The route, reconstructed from cell data and surveillance, was not direct. He took surface streets out of Phoenix for the first 90 minutes, avoiding the freeways. He stopped twice, once at a Circle K in Wickenburg to fill the tank, once at a rest area off US 93 north of Wickenburg, where he sat in the parked van for 43 minutes without leaving the vehicle. Investigators do not know what he was doing during that 43 minutes. The victim, under the blanket in the back, could not see him. He resumed driving in the early afternoon. He took US 93 northwest, crossing into Nevada at the Hoover Dam bypass shortly after 4 p.m. He did not stop in Boulder City. He did not stop in Henderson. He drove past the southern edge of Las Vegas without entering the city and continued northeast on a series of access roads into the Lake Mead National Recreation Area. At approximately 6:30 p.m. on Monday evening, he pulled the van into a primitive camping area near a stretch of shoreline on the Arizona side of the lake. He parked. He let her sit up. He removed the duct tape from her mouth. He gave her a bottle of water. He told her, again in the flat and calm voice she would describe to investigators, that she did not understand what was happening, that he was protecting her, that there were people looking for her, that he had been working on this for months. She did not argue. She drank the water. She told him she needed to use the bathroom. He let her, with her wrists still bound, walk to a cluster of brush 30 feet from the van. He watched her the entire time. She thought about running. The terrain was rough and unfamiliar. He had a knife. There were no other vehicles in sight. She walked back to the van. They spent the night at the lake. Jacob slept in the driver's seat. The victim was bound to a seatbelt anchor in the back row. She did not sleep. She would tell investigators later that she spent the entire night running through every interaction she had ever had with Jacob Wilhoit and trying to identify the moment she should have seen this coming. She could not identify one. Because, as she would later tell a victim advocate, he never seemed dangerous. He seemed sad. At sunrise on Tuesday, August 22nd, Jacob started the van. He drove south back to Hoover Dam and crossed into Arizona. He took US 93 to Kingman. He stopped at a fast food drive-thru in Kingman around 11 a.m., ordered 2 breakfast sandwiches, and gave one to her in the back seat. He cut her hands free long enough to eat. He retied them. He drove east on Interstate 40. By the early afternoon of August 22nd, he was somewhere he had never told her they were going. Cell tower data places his phone moving steadily eastbound along I-40 through the early afternoon hours. The victim, in the back seat, asked him where they were headed. He told her Las Vegas. They were not going to Las Vegas. They had already been to Las Vegas. They were now driving away from it. She did not correct him. She watched the road through a gap in the back window. She read every exit sign. She was looking for 2 things: a town with people, and a moment when he would have to leave the vehicle. At approximately 4:50 p.m. on Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023, Jacob Wilhoit pulled the blue Honda van into a Chevron station off exit 121 on Interstate 40 in the town of Seligman, Arizona, population 445. He needed gas. If you're still with me, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We don't sensationalize these cases. We tell them the way they actually happened, and we make sure the people who did the right thing get credit for it. Stay with me. The next 30 seconds are the entire reason this woman is alive. The Chevron station in Seligman sits at the corner of an access road and old Route 66. It has 6 pumps, a single-story convenience store, a hand-painted mural on the side wall, and a parking lot that is almost always at least half full of travelers. Long-haul truckers, road trip families, retirees in RVs, motorcyclists riding the historic stretch of 66 between Kingman and Williams. It is exactly the kind of place where strangers stand in line behind strangers and nobody looks at anybody for very long. Jacob Wilhoit pulled the van up to pump number 4. He cut the zip ties on the victim's wrists. He told her she was going to come inside with him. He told her if she said one word to anybody, he would shoot the first person who tried to help her. There were, at that moment, multiple firearms inside the van. They had been there the entire trip, sitting on the bench seat under a folded jacket. He had shown her one earlier, briefly, near Kingman, to make sure she understood. She nodded. She told him she would not say anything. They walked inside together. He filled 2 coffee cups. He picked out a bag of beef jerky and a packet of sunflower seeds. She walked beside him, her hands free for the first time in over a day, her sleeves pulled down to cover the zip tie marks on her wrists. At the front counter, there was a small stack of yellow sticky notes next to the register and a plastic cup of pens. The cashier was ringing up the customer ahead of them, a woman in her 50s in a gray t-shirt, buying a fountain drink and a bag of chips. Jacob set his items on the counter. He turned to look at the rack of cigarettes behind the register. He asked the cashier for a pack. The victim had, by her own later count, somewhere between 15 and 20 seconds. She picked up a yellow sticky note and a pen. She wrote 6 words: Then she wrote 4 more pieces of information underneath those 6 words. Her first name, the make, model, and color of the vehicle, a phone number, and the words Kingman, Las Vegas. The note read, in full, help, call 911, blue Honda van, her name, a phone number, Kingman, Las Vegas. She folded the note once. She turned. The customer in the gray t-shirt was just stepping away from the register, pocketing her change. The victim took 2 steps toward her, pressed the folded note into her hand, looked her in the eyes, and shook her head one time. A small, urgent gesture that meant, do not say anything, do not look at him, do not react. The customer took the note. She did not look at it. She walked out of the store. She got in her car. She unfolded the note. She read 6 words. She read the phone number. She read the make and model. She read the route. She dialed 911. The call came into the Yavapai County Sheriff's Office Communications Center at 4:58 p.m. on August 22, 2023. The dispatcher on the other end of the line listened to a woman in a gas station parking lot read 6 words off a yellow sticky note. The dispatcher did 3 things in the next 90 seconds. She got a description of the van and the direction of travel. She got the license plate from the customer, who had walked back across the lot, out of sight of the convenience store windows, and read the plate off the front of the van. And she ran the name on the note through her active case database. The name on the note matched a missing person report that had been filed at 11:14 that morning by the victim's mother in Phoenix. The report listed Jacob Daniel Wilhoit as a person of interest. It included his date of birth, his last known address, his vehicle, a blue Honda Odyssey 2014 with a license plate that matched the one the customer in the parking lot had just read aloud. The dispatcher pushed the alert to Arizona DPS at 5:01 p.m. Arizona Department of Public Safety Trooper Marcus Delgado was eastbound on I-40 at milepost 109 when the alert came over his radio. He was 9 miles west of Seligman. He executed a U-turn through the median and accelerated west. He activated his lights and siren. He notified dispatch he was en route. A second DPS unit, driven by Trooper Anya Kettering, was westbound on I-40 at milepost 134. She was 12 miles east of Seligman. She did the same. Between them, a blue Honda van containing 1 kidnapper, 1 victim, and multiple firearms in plain view was driving west on Interstate 40 at the speed limit, leaving Seligman headed toward Kingman. Jacob Wilhoit had returned to the van at approximately 5:04 p.m. He had not noticed the customer in the gray t-shirt sitting in her car in the back of the lot on her phone. He had walked straight to the pump, replaced the nozzle, gotten back in the driver's seat, and pulled away. The victim, back in the front passenger seat now, he had moved her there in Seligman to look less suspicious during the gas stop, watched the gas station shrink in the rear-view mirror, and did not say a word. Trooper Delgado spotted the van at milepost 116 at 5:23 p.m. He fell in behind it at a distance of roughly 200 yards. He confirmed the plate. He notified dispatch. He requested backup before initiating the stop. He did not want a man with multiple firearms and a hostage to feel cornered. Trooper Kettering caught up at milepost 119, 4 minutes later. A third unit, a Yavapai County Sheriff's deputy in a marked SUV, joined them at milepost 121. At milepost 124, the 3 vehicles initiated a coordinated traffic stop. Lights on, siren short, PA system instructing the driver to pull to the right shoulder and turn off the engine. Jacob Wilhoit pulled over. What happened next is on body camera footage from all 3 responding units. The footage was reviewed by investigators and prosecutors and was later released, in redacted form, to the public. Trooper Delgado approached from behind the van with his weapon drawn. Trooper Kettering took the passenger side. The deputy held a covering position. Delgado used a PA-amplified verbal command system to instruct the driver, and only the driver, to exit the vehicle slowly with his hands visible. Jacob Wilhoit opened the driver's door. He stepped out. He raised both hands. He did not run. He did not reach for anything. He did not say a word. Walk backward toward my voice. Hands stay up. Okay. On your knees. Hands behind your head. fingers laced. Yes, sir. Are there weapons in the vehicle? Yes. How many? 3. They're on the seat, under a jacket. Anyone else in the vehicle? There's a woman in the front. She's fine. She's a friend. The victim was extracted from the passenger side by Trooper Kettering. She was visibly shaking. She had zip tie marks on both wrists. She had not eaten anything since the breakfast sandwich in Kingman. Kettering walked her to the back of the patrol unit, gave her water, and told her she was safe. Jacob Wilhoit was placed in handcuffs. He was searched. He had a folding knife in his right pocket. The keys to the van were in his left. Inside the van, on the bench seat, under a folded gray jacket, troopers recovered 3 loaded firearms, 2 handguns, and 1 rifle. Boxes of ammunition were in the rear cargo area. Spare zip ties were in the glove compartment. The wig he had worn at the dealership was in a backpack in the back row. In the patrol vehicle, on the ride to the Yavapai County Jail, Jacob Wilhoit began to talk. He did not stop talking for the next 90 minutes. He told the trooper he had been protecting the victim. He told the trooper she did not know it, but she was in danger from the people she worked for. He told the trooper there were government agents involved. He told the trooper he had a phone number, and if anyone called it, that person would confirm everything. The trooper noted the phone number. He did not respond. Jacob Wilhoit was booked into the Yavapai County Adult Detention Center in Camp Verde, Arizona at 9:47 p.m. on August 22, 2023. He was charged with kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, 2 counts of aggravated assault, threatening and intimidating, and harassment. The kidnapping charge alone, a Class 2 felony in Arizona, carried a sentencing range of 7 to 21 years in prison for a first-time offender. He was held without bond pending a dangerousness hearing. The phone number he had given the trooper was traced within 24 hours. It belonged to a 58-year-old man in Tempe, Arizona, who worked as an accountant. He had no connection to the victim. He had no connection to any government agency. He told investigators, on the record, that he had never met Jacob Wilhoit, that he had been receiving calls and voicemails from him for approximately 6 months, that he had blocked the number twice and the calls had continued from new numbers, and that he had filed his own harassment complaint with Tempe police in July. The complaint was on file. It had been pending. The story Jacob Wilhoit had built, the secret agents, the danger, the phone number that would prove everything, collapsed the moment investigators picked up the receiver. In the weeks that followed, the Yavapai County Attorney's Office added charges based on evidence recovered from the van and from search warrants executed at Jacob Wilhoit's Chandler residence. Investigators found notebooks. They found surveillance logs. They found a printed-out copy of the restraining order with handwritten notes in the margins. They found a calendar on which the date, August 21, 2023, had been circled 3 weeks in advance. His public defender filed a motion in October requesting a competency evaluation. The court granted it. Jacob Wilhoit was evaluated by 2 state-appointed psychologists over the course of 3 months. Both concluded that while he held delusional beliefs, he was competent to stand trial. He understood the charges. He understood the role of the court. He could assist in his own defense. He took a plea deal in March of 2024. He pleaded guilty to kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, and aggravated assault. The remaining charges were dropped in exchange for the plea. The Yavapai County Attorney's Office, in coordination with the victim, recommended a sentence at the upper end of the mitigated range: 14 years in the Arizona Department of Corrections, followed by lifetime registration on the state's offender database, a permanent no-contact order, and forfeiture of all firearms recovered from the van. The sentencing hearing was held on May 16, 2024, in Yavapai County Superior Court. The victim attended in person. She read a statement. "I trusted a system that was supposed to keep me safe. The restraining order, the locked doors, the rideshare app. I did everything I was told to do. None of it stopped him. The only thing that stopped him was a yellow sticky note and a stranger who took the time to read it. I will spend the rest of my life being grateful to that woman. I will spend the rest of my life trying to understand why a piece of paper signed by a judge meant nothing to the man sitting across from me right now. The judge, the Honorable Catherine Reyes, addressed Jacob Wilhoit directly before imposing the sentence. Mr. Wilhoit, you have constructed for yourself a story in which you are a protector and a hero. I have read your statements. I have read the evaluations. I do not doubt that you believe what you believe. But the law does not punish you for what you believe. The law punishes you for what you did. What you did was put a wig on your head, pose as a stranger's rideshare driver, restrain her with zip ties and tape, and drive her across 2 states with 3 loaded weapons in the vehicle. What you did was take from her, for 22 hours, every right she had as a human being. You will now lose, for 14 years, every right you had as a free man. The court considers that a fair exchange. She handed down the sentence as recommended. Jacob Wilhoit was transferred to the Arizona State Prison Complex in Florence in June of 2024. He is housed in a medium security unit. His earliest release date, with credit for time served and assuming full good time, is in the spring of 2036. He will be 54 years old. The customer in the gray t-shirt, the woman who took the folded yellow sticky note in the Chevron parking lot in Seligman, Arizona, on the afternoon of August 22, 2023, has asked not to be identified. The Yavapai County Sheriff's Office has honored her request. She received a commendation letter from the sheriff. She declined every press appearance. She told a victim advocate, in the only public comment attributed to her, that she didn't do anything special. She just read the note. The victim has rebuilt her life in a city she has asked the sheriff's office not to name. She no longer uses rideshare apps. She has a new restraining order on file in 2 states. She still has the original yellow sticky note. She keeps it folded in a small box in the top drawer of her dresser. 6 words, a phone number, a make and model, a route. That was what it took. This case stayed with me. But the case on the right-hand side is somehow more disturbing, and the woman in it didn't get a sticky note. Click it now.